Okay, guys, this is Ben Onigus from Fam Onigus. Thanks for watching. I found our very first notifier, Jack Thomas's #1 fan. He told us to check out his channel, but we have no idea who Jack Thomas's is, because there are about 50 Jack Thomases, including Jack Thomas 21, Jack Thomas, Jack Thomas, Jack Thomas, Jack Thomas, Jack Thomas, Jack Thomas, and Jack Thomas. So if you could please tell us which Jack Thomas's #1 fan is a fan of. I dare you to say that five times fast. Then it would be great help. He said that he was looking to grow, so I'm just going to go with the one that seems likely. I think it might be one of these smaller ones, like Jack Thomas with the Minecraft block here, or one of these two Jack Thomases. But I don't know. I'm going to dedicate the rest of this video to looking at one of my favorite videos. Geography Now. You might have not known, but I love geography. We're going to take a look at one of their first videos. Well, one of their videos. Now, I know that there's not many people who like geography, but there's a lot of people who like seeing the wars and conflicts. So, we're going to check out Armenia, which, not many people know this, is a very conflicted nation. I'll give my little commentary on it, just like my brother did. And I hate the ads.
We're here. When you walked away without a scratch. Maybe it was the day your baby
Boo!
Or maybe the day you realized your baby was not a baby anymore. Every Subaru is built to earn your trust, because we know what you're trusting us with. Subaru.
I hate
most trusted brand.
commercials.
Best overall brand. Love. It's what makes a Subaru a Subaru.
Okay, now that we're done with that commercial.
Oh my gosh, did you hear about Armenia and Grace? Okay, it's not like official and you didn't hear from me, but I think they're like dating now.
Yeah, the intro, not too good. It's one of its worst. Paul, like, for some reason people call him Barbie. His last name's Barbato. Yeah. He's not the kind of man who's, obsessed with geography, but he really loves it, so he made this series. As you can see, he has tons of subscribers. I personally am subscribed. Now, I like his videos because they're interesting, entertaining, and he still makes learning fun.
Oh my god, they're like so perfect for each other. They're so cute. I hope they have a baby.
Yeah, he's trying to appeal to the 12-year-old girl section of his fans. Yeah, as a 12-year-old boy, yeah, I can tell you that the girls in my grade are not like that. Not at all.
Yeah, 12-year-old girls watch this show too. I gotta appeal to that demographic.
It's time to learn geography.
No!
Good intro. A short intro, but it's pretty good. And the polar bear's a nice touch.
Welcome to Armenia. Today's episode, I'm your host, Paul Barbato. Let's dissect the flag.
Now, this section is not in all of his videos. It's just in the first ones. It was later replaced by Flag Fridays. This is basically where he says, this is the flag, this is what really makes the flag. It's the flag, what it represents. Now, it's not the most interesting video. It's not that funny, but he tries to make it as funny as he can. And he's really good at it. And it's also pretty interesting to see why the flags look like they do. That's just my opinion.
The Armenian flag has 3 equally long wide bands of red, blue, and orange. The official definition of these colors, according to the Constitution of Armenia, are that the red signifies the Armenian highland, the continued struggle for survival, and the maintenance of the Christian faith.
Oh, wait a moment. People always think that places like Armenia, Azerbaijan, and those aren't really Christian. But actually, as he'll mention later in the video, the very first Christian nation is Armenia.
Independence and freedom. The blue means the will of the people of the Armenians to live beneath peaceful skies.
Yeah, you'll see that in a lot of his videos. Blue means sky or sea.
And the orange means the creative talent and hardworking nature of the people.
Yeah, I can admit that. They are pretty hardworking and creative. I mean, they had to be to get away from the USSR. As we all know, commies, terrible.
Of Armenia. Some people will tell you that the red also represents the blood of the 1.5 million Armenians that were killed during the Armenian genocide in the early 20th century, and the orange is also the color of apricots, the national fruit. Alright, now let's talk about the borders. Armenia is a landlocked...
This is where he basically talks about where it is. Yeah, Armenia, it's a pretty small country, but I still really like his videos.
Nation located in the Caucasus region of Eurasia. By the way, it's pronounced Caucasus, not caucus. A caucus is when a ton of politicians make an excuse to get drunk. Bordered by 4 other countries, only 2...
Yeah. That's where he makes it really funny, and I'm sorry I accidentally clicked out of the video. While the ad's playing, let's focus on me. Well, I really like Paul Barbato because he makes learning fun.
Oh my gosh, did you hear about Armenia and Greece? Okay, it's not like official, and you didn't hear from me, but I think they're like dating now. Oh my god, they're like so... Independent nation that runs without Azeri legislation. Actually has 1 enclave.
Okay, guys. This is where it starts to get a little long. I really like geography now, but it's going to get really long here, since I'm giving my commentary as I go.
Armenia is a landlocked nation located in the Caucasus region of Eurasia. By the way, it's pronounced Caucasus, not caucus. A caucus is when a ton of politicians make an excuse to get drunk.
And that's what I like about him, because he makes it funny. A caucus. Ton of politicians get an excuse to me. I mean, seriously, ton of politicians drunk. Imagine how funny that can get in just a few seconds.
Bordered by 4 other countries, only 2 of which have open borders. We'll explain more about that in a bit. With the capital of Yerevan in the south-central region close to Mount Ararat in Turkey, which is the area that is disputedly claimed to be the historical site that Noah's Ark landed on. The interesting thing is that Armenia actually has 1 enclave and 1 disputed nation locked within Azerbaijan. Artsbashi, although considered an Armenian enclave, was actually taken over and controlled by Azerbaijan since 1992, as they expelled the Armenians living there. And on that note, Azerbaijan actually has 4 enclaves inside of Armenia. Okari Espikara, Yaradulu, Barkudarli, and Karki. Now let's get back to the Nagorno-Karabakh Republic. This entire region is the center of so much controversy between Armenia and Azerbaijan. The population of this area is almost completely Armenian, and they have expressed their desire to either secede and become a part...
And this is where he starts to talk about the wars. He loves to talk about wars. I mean, seriously, this is a ton of fun.
Part of Armenia, or gain complete recognized statehood, even though Azerbaijan claims that they are still in their land. In the early 90s, Azerbaijan relinquished official governmental control over this region. However, it is still a huge breeding ground for fighting and conflict. To this day, Nagorno-Karabakh is kind of an independent nation that runs without Azeri legislation. However, the situation gets very complicated. As you'll soon find out, Armenia actually has a very unique and strategic location in a very dark and complex territory. But first, let's explain the terrain. Armenia's landscapes are actually pretty distinct and quite lovely. The land is almost completely mountainous with fast-flowing rivers and green forests, a lot of the farms being mountain terrace farms on the hillsides. Armenia enjoys nice warm summers and long autumns and cold, snowy winters. Environmentally and agriculture-wise, Armenia has been taking their land very seriously. Laws have just been passed that heavily tax people and companies for any kind of air, land, or water pollution. All tax revenue goes towards reinvesting in environmental protection activities. With fertile volcanic soil, the land allows them to grow all sorts of fruits, vegetables, and grains, and a huge percentage, about 72% of the land, is used for agriculture, which employs about 46% of the workforce. Armenia went through a huge shift in their agriculture after disbanding from the former Soviet Union and becoming independent in 1991. Long story short, land privatization was established and people could freely grow and administer their own crops without fear of the state control and demand. There's actually a little bit of controversy though, because although Armenia has a huge potential for renewable energy sources like hydroelectric power and water power, they actually are more dependent on nuclear power with plants that were built during the Soviet rule. Problem is that these plants are built in earthquake-prone zones, which put them in a precarious position, but even with all this acknowledged, the government seems to favor investing in these sources of power more than alternative brands. Finally, if you ask any Armenian, they'll tell you that Mount Ararat, although kind of technically in Turkey right now, totally belongs to Armenia, and historically it kind of did belong to the Armenian Empire at one point.
Yeah.
Mount Ararat actually plays a huge role in Armenian symbolism and nationalistic pride. To this day, Armenians can see the majestic mountain off in the distance from their borders. Speaking of nationalism, let's talk about the demographics.
This is basically his people
Armenia has
section.
about 3.3 million people and is very racially homogenous. About 97% of the population is Armenian, with very few minorities like Greeks, Russians, Georgians, and the intriguingly enigmatic Yazidi people. The interesting thing, though, is that more Armenian people, over twice as much as the entire population of Armenia, lives outside of Armenia. It's estimated about 8 million Armenians live in diaspora around the world, and the reason for this was primarily because of the Armenian genocide.
Yeah, the Turkish hate the Armenian. The Turkish hate the Armenian. The Turks took over all that huge land that used to belong to Armenia and killed every single Armenian or sent them to places far, far away, like United States. This is something that he mentions every once in a while. But it's what I like about Paul Barbato. He can talk about the war. Hey, get your hands. But yet, he can still make it fun. Look at it. Why? I don't need to zoom in. Oh, sorry. That's my brother with his breath.
Long story short, during the time of World War I, the Ottomans tried to ethnically cleanse the region during their last stretches of their falling empire and ended up killing over 1.5 million Armenians.
That is a lot of
Armenians
Armenians.
to leave Armenia out of fear, and to this day there are numerous Armenian communities spread throughout the world, most heavily in places like Russia, Iran, France, and the U.S. The largest Armenian community in the U.S. being right here in my hometown, Los Angeles. One of the most
Little
distinguishable
Armenia.
aspects about Armenia, though, would have to be the language and the alphabet. Along with Georgia and Greece, Armenia is one of the only 3 European languages that uses an alphabet that is not derived from a Latin or Cyrillic-based writing system. The Armenian alphabet, or the Aybuben, has 38 letters, technically 39 or 40 if you include those extra letters that were added during the 1920s. They even made a monument to to the alphabet in 2005 in Burakan. There are also two distinct
Yeah, they love their
Eastern and Western Armenian. Western
their
being
alphabet.
spoken mostly by the Armenians in diaspora around the world. Sometimes it can also be hard for Western Armenian dialect speakers to understand Eastern dialect speakers without consistent practice or hearing it. Armenia also has a long history of Christianity, as historical accounts claim that two of Jesus' disciples, Thaddeus and Bartholomew, preached to the Armenians in the 1st century AD, and eventually Armenia became the first Christian state in the world at around 300 AD, just at the end of the persecution period during the Roman Empire. Finally, Armenians have a huge love of wrestling and chess. In fact, when Armenia was under Soviet rule, the Soviets would specifically want to choose Armenian wrestlers because they always came back at a rate of 90%.
Wrestle!
Also, with some of the most worldwide renowned chess players, such as the famous Tigran Petrosyan and numerous world championship winners, Armenia is considered one of the strongest chess nations to this day. They love chess. You know what else Armenia loves? These countries we're about to discuss in the friend zone. I nailed that transition.
Yes, you did.
Here's a little story. When I was in 6th grade, I was assigned a seat where I literally had to share a desk table facing and staring my worst enemies 2 feet away from me for the entire school year. And there was nothing I could do. It was torture. That's kind of what Armenia is like. With this predicament, Armenia is located right next to Azerbaijan and Turkey, the two countries they
that
get
hate
along
it the
with
most.
least. Azerbaijan because of the whole Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, and Turkey because of the former oppression that the Ottoman Empire had put on them. To this day, the land borders are closed between the two countries, and Azerbaijan even prosecutes anyone that tries to enter with an Armenian passport. One of the biggest reasons why things don't get insane, though, is because a little friend Armenia has named Russia. You may have heard of it. As a former Soviet state, Armenia has a lot of ties to Russia. However, after the breakup of the Soviet Union, they actually decided to maintain friendly relations with Russia, and Russia has been very dedicated to the protection of Armenia. They even have a Russian military base located in Gyumri. This gives Armenia significant backup should anything cataclysmic arise. They also have close and strategic ties to Iran in the south, as they are Armenia's only open land border to Asia. Despite the religious differences, the two get along just fine and share a long cultural history that goes back thousands of years. Georgians and Armenians have been sisters since day one and share a heavy history and culture with each other as well. They love each other, however, there's a little bit of drama because Armenia is still friends with Russia, recently went to war with Georgia over the South Ossetia region. This puts a huge economic strain on Armenia because Georgia was the only land access route that Armenia had to Europe, and after the war, Russia put a blockade on Georgia. Apparently, Armenia's two good friends don't get along. However, on a side note, when it comes to Greece, Armenia and Greece, they kind of really like each other. Like, they really kind of like each other. Greece and Armenia just get along really well. Armenians are welcoming Greece with open arms, and likewise Greeks in Armenia. It's like, hey, you have an Orthodox Christian upbringing? So do I! Hey, you have a distinct, unique language that isn't based on any Indo-European dialect? So do I! Hey, you were persecuted and you hate the Ottomans too?
Yeah, that's just overdoing it. Paul, I like you, but yeah.
So do I! Hey, would you, I don't know, just like to maybe get some coffee sometime? To this day, it's not very uncommon to find lots of couples and families that have one Armenian parent and one Greek parent. It's like a match made in Southeastern European heaven. In the end, Armenia is kind of like a reality show. There's a lot of drama, there's some relationship problems, there's cute people pairing up, but in the end, they're honest with who they are, and they trudge on through life one step at a time. Stay tuned, Australia is coming up next.
He's got a good ending, too. Thanks for watching. This is Ben's reaction to Geography Now. Leave a like in the comment section. Subscribe if you haven't yet. This is Ben from Familocus.